Chimpanzees are man's closest relative, having 98% of the same genes as mankind. Young chimpanzees have been captured and kept in cages, injected with different diseases to see treatment options. But chimpanzees were studied in their natural surroundings on the banks of Lake Tanganyika only in 1960 by Jane Goodall. As a sensitive research scientist, she was able to get the trust of the group of chimpanzees. About 30 of them, both male, female, and young ones, lived together on the mountain sides. They had no predators. Their diet consisted of fruits and insects. The local inhabitants had warned Jane that the chimps will definitely kill her. But with bravery and sensitivity, she went towards them. Initially, they shouted and tried to make her afraid, but she kept her position, and thereafter they had accepted her. She was able to observe the chimpanzee groups, which are of great interest to humans, consisted of a dominant male and a dominant female. The dominant male had the first right for taking the best fruits and also the first mating. He was generally the strongest and most intelligent and courageous. But the hierarchy was not only the first dominant, but it went right down to everyone. And every chimp knew where they stood in the hierarchical chain. They behaved in a submissive way to one in a higher hierarchy by bending down, avoiding eye contact, and the superior acknowledged it by touching the head or the hand. Comradeship is shown in the hierarchy by frequent combing. Dominance is shown by a show of strength, but they avoid fighting, which could lead to injury. They often hug each other and kiss each other, and rivalry is forgotten and they remain friends, resting close to each other without any sense of animosity. It is remarkable that there could be aggression and fighting, but the aggression ends quickly. Chimpanzees from different communities meet each other, and after the separation, they greet each other with a wide range of gestures. Female chimpanzees and male chimpanzees vary differently in the way they behave. Adult females are sexually receptive for about 10 days per month, provided they are not pregnant or lactating, both of which last about 5 years. During this period, she is followed by all the males in the group who mate with her one by one according to their dominance. Females are almost always submissive to adult males. But an older female are quite experienced in dealing with males. A baby chimpanzee is completely protected by the mother, and she will not allow anybody except the siblings to touch the baby. Some mothers are quite inattentive and positively callous. Baby chimps depend upon their mother for several years as they are constantly learning, constantly practicing different things. And the mother teaches them how to behave with the elders. Small infants are shown a great deal of tolerance from the whole community. Young chimps spend a great deal of time playing and do little else, leaping from one branch to another, dangling with one hand, biting, tickling each other. They learn the complex process of chimp society. Male infants tend to indulge in more rough and tumble, showing aggressive patterns, threaten and attack others. Adolescent males show great respect for their old mothers and usually stood back when the mother accepted bananas at a camp. Adolescents sat a distance from their superiors, but were part of the adult male group, so were able to learn from their superiors in case of aggressive incidents. Adolescent females had to be cautious in dealing not only with dominant females and males, but also with adolescent males. They are fascinated by infants, carry them for short distance, play with them, groom them, and show concern for their welfare. The gestures of courtship by males are looked on as threatening behavior, and so she runs away. But with a little bit of experience, she responds to any sign of sexual interest from the males. In fact, they rush over and initiate mating. Up to age 12, the young ones live without care as they have a great sense of affection for their mothers. If a mother dies, a young chimpanzee will stop eating, is extremely distressed, and maybe even die. Until the age of 2, they are carried by their mother or by a sister. A brother is never interested in young chimps. An older sister will play play with a young one whole day, grooming and carrying him. Chimps communicate with a range of signals, but they do not possess the larynx, which is the fundamental difference between the humans and the chimpanzees. But they completely understand what is being spoken by the humans. Chimps living among humans showed intelligent understanding of language, grammar, word order. They showed affection for humans and were distressed when they were separated from the humans. Jane was able to make detailed observations when she put out bananas in her camp and the chimps came closely. Chimps are very quick to notice and interpret the eye movement and facial expressions of their fellow chimps. Chimpanzees and baboons have the same range, though they live in separate communities. They can communicate between each other. They would arrive at the camp and would eat bananas together amicably. There is a close similarity to many of the gestures and postures of the chimpanzees and the human. When a chimp is frightened, he touches or embraces a chimp nearby. This physical contact removes anxiety, particularly if it's the mother. In the presence of a dominant individual, the subordinate begs for reassurance by submissive bowing and crouching. The superior responds by grooming. When chimpanzees meet after a long time, they may bow close to the ground, hold hands, embrace, touch or pat any part of the body. The greeting also re-establish the dominant status of one related to the another. In fact, the human infant, like a chimpanzee infant, is incapable of speech. The baby uses a combination of sounds and gestures for communication, and gradually, as the larynx is formed, starts using words. But humans continue to use gestures to help in communication. The greatest enemy of chimpanzees is loneliness and boredom. In the wild, they thrive moving on with different chimpanzees, eating different things, going to different places. Chimpanzee mind and human mind are fundamentally alike. Communication is the glue that holds the species together. Humans use non-verbal messages built over millions of years to communicate using touch, sight, and sound. A human child can read emotions from facial expressions, read happiness and sadness, and distinguish the degrees of each of them. A chimp could tear out the picture of a car and hand it over to her foster mother. The chimp understood that the photo was symbolic. Washoe was a chimp taught by Professor Roger the American Sign Language. It learned by watching and imitating according to her own timetable. Washoe led a stimulating life in which there was learning and play, making activity a game. Learning by imitating and watching. Washoe had a voracious curiosity. Chimps have a free play over a long childhood, free time to learn. There was no teaching. Learning was at her own pace, no rigidity. Washoe would be at a task for hours as long as it was fun. Chimp mothers rarely use force to stop their babies and children from doing something unless there was a danger to themselves. So learning proceeded spontaneously at its own pace without reward or punishment. Chimps learned the sign language effortlessly by watching other chimps. They formed new sentences without any prompting from others. In American Sign Language, words are replaced by gestures. Chimps have been using in the wild a range of gestures accompanied by intonation and body language. All of them non-verbal way of communications, which is exactly like the human non-verbal American Sign Language. Chimps can become grief-stricken due to separation from foster human mothers and die due to grief. This happens in the wild also. Dominance was an important part of chimp society, and communication had to be modeled according to dominance. Respect for authority meant avoiding eye contact by the lower ranking. How did a human develop a system starting from simplest to complex words? Humanity evolved speech from gestures over 200,000 years. Then came spoken words, gradually crowded out gestures with speech, becoming the prominent means of communications. Nowadays, human beings use language and gestures to get communication. Chimps have an extraordinary ability to observe the non-verbal signs of humans and know whether they were distressed or unhappy. Lucy, if she saw two humans who were angry with each other, would distract one human away from the other. When Lucy met someone new, she would smell them, go up to them, size them up, and look into their eyes intently for quite some time. Chimps lived in community, in small groups. being quite non-violent to each other and to strangers. They thrived on communication, using gestures, eye contact. How did the human society, which is 98% similarity with the chimps, become such a brutal society?